Beneath your feet, the earth inhales. Slow, quiet movements stir molten memory. This is where volcanoes begin, not in fire, but in breath. You will travel now, downward, to feel the pulse of a planet dreaming in magma. A journey inward, towards something ancient and awake. Asterisk, close your eyes. Let your breath slow. Imagine the world, not from above, but from deep within, down. Far beneath, the trees, the rivers, the cities, and skin of things, where the earth is not solid, but soft, warm, and alive. Down here, the earth breathes. It is not like your breath with lungs, or ribs, or air. But it has rhythm, a slow heaving of pressure and heat, like tides inside stone. Every moment, molten rock stirs just beneath the crust, shifting and murmuring in chambers older than the sky. You live on a thin shell, just 25 to 40 miles of crust beneath your home, beneath your street, beneath your quiet bed, and below that, the mantle, vast and pulsing, a sea of slow, liquid rock. It is in this mantle, this silken, slow-moving underworld, that volcanoes are born, not all at once, not with fire or fury. They begin with a whisper. A patch of mantle warms a little, more than its surroundings. Like a soft sigh, it grows buoyant. It gathers strength as it moves upward, changing shape but never losing direction. You may imagine it like honey moving through sponge, slow, inevitable, sticky, with potential. This is not destruction. This is creation, waiting, the molten rock. That rises is called magma, not lava, not yet. Lava is magma that has broken free, reached the surface. But down here, it is still dreaming. It gathers in underground chambers, pooling, swelling, pressing gently against the rocks above. Sometimes it waits for centuries, sometimes longer. But it never forgets how to rise. The Earth's crust isn't whole, you see. It is cracked, a patchwork of plates drifting ever so slowly atop the mantle. Where these plates pull apart or grind past one another, openings are formed, weak spots, wounds, and the magma listens for them. When it finds one, a fault line, a vent, a crack, it presses upward, guided by pressure, chemistry, and patience. Volcanoes, then, are not sudden monsters. They are the slow bloom of the planet's inner breath. They are places where the Earth has decided, gently but firmly, to let a little of itself rise to the surface. Even in silence, they speak. Sometimes they rumble. Sometimes they swell. Sometimes the ground grows warm or trembles as if the planet were shifting in its sleep. And sometimes they go quiet for so long we forget they are even there. But beneath the surface, the breath continues. In the coming chapters, you'll feel that breath take shape. You'll walk through the places where magma nears the edge, where people have built lives above waiting giants, where science tries to listen to Earth's deep, wordless warnings. For now, you are still descending, still being introduced to the warm, pulsing dark beneath your world. And as you drift toward rest, ask yourself this: if the earth is breathing, what is it dreaming of next? Asterisk, some volcanoes are silent, others whisper in their sleep. But a very few, watch us constantly. In this chapter, you'll visit volcanoes that never truly sleep. The ones that emit heat, breath, or tremors, signs, not of rage, asterisk, but of readiness, asterisk. They do not roar, they do not scream, not yet, but they blink and breathe, and every now and then they sigh just loud enough for us to notice. There are volcanoes on this earth that have not erupted in a generation, but they are not dormant. Not truly, they are restless. They are the ones that sleep with open eyes. They steam in the cold mornings. They burp sulfur into crisp mountain air. They swell in slow, invisible pulses, like something just beneath the skin of a creature too vast to see. Scientists have names for this: uplift, outgassing, thermal flux, microseismicity. But the Earth doesn't need these terms. It simply moves, and those who watch closely begin to understand what that movement means. Let's visit one together. You stand now at the edge of Campi Flegrei in southern Italy, a place the Romans once called the Fields of Fire. They knew something. Even without satellites or sensors, they felt the warmth in the ground, the heaviness in the air, the taste of sulfur in their wells. Campi Flegrei is not a single mountain, but a collapsed caldera, an enormous underground reservoir of magma. Spread beneath homes, roads, and busy streets, to the untrained eye, it looks harmless, scenic even, but the ground is rising. Not fast, not dramatic. A few centimeters a year, then more dot, and beneath that, rising, tiny earthquakes, dozens, then hundreds. As if something beneath the city were stretching its limbs. Campi Flegrei has not erupted in hundreds of years. But it is not quiet. It sleeps with open eyes, now shift continents. You're standing near Yellowstone, in the US, not just a park, but a caldera that spans over 40 miles, beneath the hot springs and geysers lies one of the largest active magma systems on the planet, and it moves and breathes. It releases over 60,000 tons of CO every day. The crust swells, then settles, then swells again. They call it a supervolcano, but it doesn't need a title to be dangerous. It's not preparing for tomorrow. Preparing for whenever. We don't know when, but we know it's watching another blink, another sigh. It's not just Yellowstone, or Campi Fleegray, or Sakurajima in Japan, or Taal in the Philippines, or Nevado del Ruiz in Colombia. There are dozens of volcanoes that are not erupting, but not at peace. Some are in remote forests, some under the sea, some just miles from schools, cities, markets, and if you ask the earth, "Are you asleep?" it may not answer. But the signs are there. Steam rising from cold soil, gases shifting in composition, cracks in rock that weren't there last month, a mountain that feels just a little warmer than it should. The ones that sleep with open eyes do not threaten us. They warn us, but are we listening? Asterisk before the mountain speaks, before the sky opens, before the earth exhales in ash, there is a whisper. It's not the kind you hear with ears. It's the kind that unsettles birds, that makes animals leave, that makes children cry without knowing why. Before the eruption comes the omen, and the earth, if nothing else, always whispers first. Some volcanoes roar suddenly, or so we think, but the truth, they warn. Take Mount Pinatubo, 1991. The world watched, unprepared, as ash blotted out the sun in the Philippines. Lahars rushed like wet concrete through villages. 600 lives lost, thousands displaced. A global drop in temperature, but a year before it erupted, Pinatubo had started to stir, not with lava, not with fire, but with whispers, tiny earthquakes, shifting gas, a sudden bulge in the land. But few were listening, and even fewer understood. The whisper is never the same. Sometimes it's a new smell. Sulfur in places where the wind should only carry pine. Sometimes it's a pattern of tremors, so small no one feels them, but recorded in the deep bellies of seismic labs, like a ticking clock beneath your feet. Sometimes it's the animals, leaving a mountain they've called home for generations, days before the eruption comes. We tell ourselves it's nothing, it's just weather, it's only superstition. But the earth remembers what it said. We just don't always translate it in time. Now you're standing beside a tall volcano in the Philippines, beautiful, serene. A volcano inside a lake. Inside a volcano in 2020, it erupted, spitting ash miles into the sky. But before that, weeks of unrest, days of whispers, fissures appearing in the ground, steam billowing from places that had been dry, the lake heating up, then animals fled, then tremors began. The mountain was trying to warn, but most of us were scrolling, sleeping, working, living, never looking down. Let's walk around the edge of Popocatépetl, just outside Mexico City. Locals call it El Popo. They respect it because it speaks often, it coughs, it smolders, it rains ash without warning. It's not silent, it never is. And walk into the capital uninvited. When it does, it will not be called a disaster. It will be called inevitable, because El Popo is always talking. But are we recording its voice? Volcanoes don't just erupt. They decide, and like any force with memory and pressure, they broadcast that decision in tiny signs. The way the crust inflates, the way birds migrate, the color of a boiling spring, the sulfur content in escaping gas, the shuddering deep underground. Long before any explosion reaches Earthes, are the whispers before the fire. And once the whisper becomes a shout, once the earth tears, the magma climbs, and the sky begins to darken. It's too late to run. You prepare in the whisper. You pray in the roar. Some say volcanoes are unpredictable. But maybe we just don't listen well. Maybe we don't speak the old language anymore, but the earth hasn't stopped speaking, not once. Asterisk, asterisk. Not all volcanoes are built the same. Some whisper, some warn, and some wait centuries. Wait quietly. Wait with the weight of entire continents on their backs. And when these monsters move, they don't just reshape the land. Tate. History. These are the continent killers, the gods beneath our feet, the ones we fear, but rarely face. Let's begin with Yellowstone, a name known to campers and school books, but what lies beneath the beauty? The geysers, the bison trails, is a supervolcano sleeping under your next vacation. Yellowstone has erupted 3 times in the last 2.1 million years. Not lava, not ashdot, but oceans of fire. Ash. Thick enough to bury half of America. So dense it suffocates the sun. So wide it poisons crops from coast to coast. Imagine a winter not made of snow, but of volcanic ash, choking engines, killing power. Grids, starving supply chains, not for weeks, for years. And Yellowstone, it's not extinct, it's just waiting again. Then there's Campi Flegrei, beneath Naples, Italy. Tourists walk its crust like ants on a loaded gun. Locals sip coffee above. Boiling ground, Campi Flegrei, last exploded in 1538. Not long in volcanic time. And for the past few years, it's been whispering louder. Tremors, gas, ground swelling. Scientists say the pressure is rising. The lid is thinning. If it blows, Naples is gone. The Mediterranean becomes a mirror of smoke, and Europe darkened. In days dot, we turn now to Lake Toba, Indonesia. A supervolcano so massive, its last eruption nearly erased humanity 74,000 years ago. It sent 2,800 cubic kilometers of material into the air. That's 10,000 times bigger than Mount St. Helens. It caused a volcanic winter, a global drop in temperatures. Crops failed, species dwindled. And some scientists believe the human population shrank to just a few thousand breeding pairs. Toba didn't just change the land. It changed evolution, and it's still there, still quiet, still waiting. Next, Taupo, New Zealand. A volcano in disguise, sleeping beneath a lake so blue. Tourists mistake it for peace. But Taupo is a beast. Its eruption around 1,800 years ago was one of the largest in recorded human history. It filled skies with fire so far. The Chinese noted the red glow in their records. It could erupt again. And if it does, the Pacific will feel its wrath first. But it won't stop there, because supervolcanoes don't have local impacts. They create global reactions. Each of these giants is monitored. Satellites, sensors, swarming. Scientists with charts and gas masks. But data doesn't stop destiny. And if one of them erupts in our lifetime, there will be no new story, only a new age. These are not myths, not ancient monsters hiding in old texts. They are real, alive, measured and watched. But the world continues to grow around them. Cities, airports, power lines, as if nothing beneath our feet is capable of erasing us. The truth. The earth doesn't need war to end civilization. It only needs one mountain to wake up. Asterisk, it begins without thunder. No scream from the heavens, no warning sirens. Just a trembling beneath your feet, barely a murmur. The ground swells. The birds vanish, and the sky forgets how to be blue. This is not fantasy. It has happened before, and when it did, civilizations vanished, not in battle, but beneath clouds of fire. Let me take you to the year 536 AD. Historians called it the worst year to be alive. Why? Because something exploded. 18 months. The sun was no longer visible. The Byzantine historian Procopius wrote, "The sun gave forth its light without brightness, like the moon, ... in its waning. Temperatures dropped. Snow fell in summer. Crops rotted in the fields. Famine swept the earth like plague, and the plague that came too. Empires faltered. And all around the world, people looked upward and whispered, "The gods are angry." But this was no divine punishment. This was a volcano. We don't know which one for certain. Maybe Ilopango in El Salvador. Maybe something buried beneath ice in Iceland. But the ash it sent circled the entire globe. A volcanic winter. A year without summer. A silent apocalypse. But 536 was only the beginning. In 1815, Mount Tambora erupted in Indonesia. It was, by volume, the largest eruption in modern history. The mountain shrank by over 4,000 feet. The sound was heard 1,600 miles away. Tsunamis, tremors, fire from sea to sky. And then, the ash dot it blanketed Asia, choked the Indian Ocean. Winds carried it across the world. The next year, 1816, became known as the year without a summer, snow in June, frost in August, famine in China, mass migration in Europe. In Vermont, crops failed. In Switzerland, the darkness inspired a young woman named Mary Shelley to write a novel titled Frankenstein. Even art couldn't escape the shadow of the volcano. We believe we are safe. We have satellites, warning systems, seismic monitors. But ask the people of Pompeii if time was on their side. They had a full day to flee, but most didn't, because the ash came down soft like gray snow. Until it was too late, until it was everywhere, in lungs, in skin, in silence. Volcanic darkness doesn't come like war. It doesn't broadcast itself. It rises. It spreads. It blots out the sun, and if Yellowstone or Campi Flegrei or Taupo were to blow, it wouldn't just be a local tragedy. It would be global collapse. Supply chains fail. Crops die. Economies fracture. And in the chaos, we wouldn't just lose food or fuel. We'd lose order. We'd lose truth, because when the sun disappears, so does certainty. And all that's left is a species that once ruled the earth, staring upward, blind beneath the ash dot, the next time the sky turns black. It might not be a sunset. It might be the start of something ancient, something that doesn't ask for permission, something that simply erupts. Asterisk, there are volcanoes, and then there are supervolcanoes. A word that sounds like science fiction, but sits beneath our feet. Very real and very patient. They do not erupt often. Not every year. Not even every 1,000. But when they do, the world changes. Not just a country, not a continent. The entire Earth. What is a supervolcano? It's not just bigger, chord. It's beyond. Scale. An ordinary volcano might spit out cubic kilometers of ash. But a supervolcano can eject over 1,000 cubic kilometers in one blast. That's enough to bury entire states, to block out sunlight for years, to drop global temperatures by 10 degrees Celsius. These aren't mountains. They are calderas, sunken giants, formed when the Earth collapses into itself after an eruption. What remains is not a peak, but a wound, and those wounds still breathe. Let me show you 5 names that keep scientists awake at night. Asterisk. Yellowstone caldera, USA. Beneath the national parks, geysers, and wildlife sleeps a beast. Its last supereruption, 640,000 years ago, turned North America into ash and bone. If it blew today, tens of millions would die within hours. The Midwest would vanish, and a nuclear winter would begin without the nukes. Asterisk. Campi Flegrei, Italy. Just outside Naples, in the shadow of Mount Vesuvius, lies something far more dangerous. Campi Flegrei hasn't fully erupted since 1538, but it's swelling. The ground rises each year. Gas vents hiss near schools and homes. Locals walk streets that breathe, unaware they live above a loaded gun. Asterisk. Topo. New Zealand. The lake is stunning. Crystal waters, peaceful skies, but beneath it, the site of one of the largest eruptions in human history. In 180 AD, Topo painted the skies red in China. From across the ocean, it still simmers. It still watches. Asterisk. Toba. Indonesia, 740 years ago. Mount Toba erupted so violently, scientists believe it nearly drove humans extinct. Genetic evidence shows our ancestors were reduced to a few thousand survivors. It was not war, not disease, but ash, cold, and starvation from one eruption. The volcano still sleeps, but it is not dead. Asterisk. Era caldera. Japan. Beneath the city of Kagoshima, Era simmers with quiet rage. Its smaller cousin, Sakurajima, erupts frequently. Tiny warnings of a deeper pressure. Scientists say the magma chamber continues to fill. It's not a matter of if, but when. Supervolcanoes don't need permission. They don't follow headlines. They don't warn twice. In a single week, they could cancel crops, darken skies, erase borders, rewrite maps. Human history would divide in two before the blast and after, so we monitor. We study. We dig into the soil and ice for signs from the past, hoping they'll tell us something about the future. But these giants have waited for millennia. They are patient, unmoved by time, unshaken by civilization, and the truth is chilling. We do not control them. We only live in the silence between their breaths. Asterisk, not all monsters roar before they strike. Some only rumble softly beneath the crust, like a breath held too long. And across the world, the ground is shifting, not with earthquakes or news alerts, but in subtle ways. Ways scientists watch with quiet dread, because beneath our feet, the countdowns may have already begun. We just don't know how far along they are. Let's talk signs. The tells that a supervolcano is stirring. They aren't obvious. There's no glowing red, no cinematic cracking of the earth. Instead, we see ground deformation. The land rises. Like bread in an oven, a city might lift by inches a year. Slowly, quietly, gas emissions, sulfur, carbon dioxide, radon, invisible vapors that whisper. Magma is moving. Earthquake swarms, dozens, hundreds, tiny quakes, clustered like nervous footsteps under a sleeping giant. Temperature changes. Hot springs run hotter. New fumaroles open. Steam begins to rise from cracks never seen before. These are the symptoms. And around the world, some supervolcanoes are showing more of them. Yellowstone, breathing uneven asterisk at Yellowstone. Satellites show the ground rising and falling like a sleeping chest. In 2004, the uplift increased sharply, more than 7 centimeters per year. Then it slowed. Then it rose again. Scientists aren't shouting eruption yet, but they aren't sleeping either. Yellowstone is alive, they say, and it is restless. Asterisk can't be flagrant, tension mounting, asterisk in 2023. A swarm of over 1,100 earthquakes struck the region. Locals felt the walls shake. The ground in Puzzuoli, Italy, has risen over 4 meters since 1950. Some scientists now say Campi Flegrei is approaching a critical pressure point. The magma chamber is heating, cracks are forming, and the crust above is growing weaker. The clock isn't ticking loudly, but it's ticking. Era caldera. The pulse under Japan beneath Kagoshima. The Era caldera's magma chamber continues to swell. The nearby Sakurajima volcano erupts frequently, but experts worry these are just pressure releases. Like the hiss of a boiling kettle, Japan has one of the world's best volcano monitoring systems. But even they admit we may only get days of warning. Toba, Quiet, but not forgotten, Indonesia's Toba caldera hasn't erupted in over 70,000 years. But since 2016, new signs have emerged. Deeper earthquakes, a slow pulse of heat, unexplained changes in groundwater chemistry. It's not preparing to erupt tomorrow, but the magma is active. The beast is not gone. It's just still. So how close are we? The truth, no one knows. Some eruptions come after years of signs. Some give no warning at all. Technology helps. But we are still students trying to read the heartbeat of mountains. Older than memory. But here's what scientists agree on. At least 20 supervolcanoes exist on Earth. Several show signs of renewed activity. An eruption this century is not just possible, it's plausible. The question isn't if one will erupt again. It's when, where, and whether we'll be ready. And if we're not, ash will fall. Crops will fail. Skies will darken. Nations will tremble, and humanity will face one of its greatest tests since we first learned to walk upright. It starts with a sound, deep, muffled, ancient, not thunder, not quake, something lower, a groan from Earth's bones. Then the mountain splits, the sky turns red, then black. Ash rises higher than storms, higher than plains, riding the stratosphere like poison ink spilled across the globe. The eruption isn't like Vesuvius. It's not like Mount St. Helens. This is something else. This extinction grade. Day 1. The blast column of fire. A plume stretching 30 miles high. Enough energy to match hundreds of nuclear bombs. Pyroclastic flows hotter than fire, faster. Then sound race outward, vaporizing everything in a 50-mile radius. Cities nearby vanish in seconds. People don't even scream. They don't have time. The blast alone kills hundreds of thousands. But that's just the beginning. Day 3. Ashfall louche clouds drift for thousands of miles. Towns hundreds of kilometers away are buried in meters of choking dust. Roofs collapse. Air turns to glass shards, forelungs. The sun fades behind a curtain of gray. Air travel halts. Satellites go blind. Power grids fail. And those who survive the blast face a world no longer meant for breathing. Week 2. Global. Collapse. The stratosphere now swirls with ash and sulfur dioxide. This is no longer a regional crisis. This is planetary. Sunlight drops by 70%. Within weeks, famine begins. Supply chains snap. economies spiral. Nations close borders, and those already living on the edge fall. First, month 3, nuclear. Winter without the nuke. Scientists call it a volcanic winter. But it feels like the end of all seasons. Snow in June, frost in deserts, storms where no storms belong. A single supervolcano can drop global temperatures by 6 degrees Celsius, 10.8 degrees Fahrenheit, for years. The last time this happened, Toba, 74,000 years ago. Humanity almost didn't survive. Some believe our population dropped to as few as 2,000 individuals. Now imagine that. But with 8 billion mouths, year 1, the reckoning. Food riots erupt. Governments fall. Wars begin, not for oil, but for soil. Disease spreads in refugee camps. Ash-tainted skies disrupt climate further. Acid rain poisons lakes and rivers. The oceans turn colder, darker, emptier. And for every scientist who warned us, no one listens now. Because survival speaks louder than truth. Aftermath. What survives? Some will endure in bunkers, in domes, in the lucky places where ash didn't choke the sky. They'll tell stories of fire from the earth, of the day the sun was stolen, of how a mountain cracked the world in half. And maybe they'll rebuild, maybe, but they will never forget that this planet is not tamed, that beneath the beauty of our skies, the earth holds monsters we cannot defeat, only endure. The lesson: we are not the masters of earth, we are its guests. And when it clears its throat, even once, it can change the course of history, reset civilization, and turn tomorrow into myth. So, if a supervolcano erupts tomorrow, the question is not who dies first, it's who survives long enough to witness the silence that follows. Asterisk, we know what can happen: the ash, the cold, the collapse. So now comes the question: can we stop it? Can we tame a force older than civilization, deeper than the crust, hotter than hell? Surprisingly, some scientists say yes, but the answer isn't simple, and the risk staggering. Asterisk, first, understanding the beast: you can't prevent what you don't understand. A supervolcano doesn't erupt on a whim. It builds pressure slowly over hundreds of thousands of years, as magma fills a massive underground chamber beneath Yellowstone. That chamber is 60 kilometers long, 20 kilometers wide, and sits like a boiling cauldron just beneath the crust. We track its breathing, ground-swelling gas emissions, seismic activity, but here's the chilling part. It can look calm until moments before it explodes. Prevention. then, must be proactive, not reactive. Can we engineer a solution? In 2017, NASA floated a radical idea. What if we could cool the supervolcano from the inside? Their plan: drill into the side of the magma chamber, pump in water, and draw out heat like a giant geothermal battery. Over time, could reduce pressure delay or even prevent an eruption. It's not science fiction. It's thermodynamics, but there's a catch, asterisk, the risk of triggering doomsday if you drill too deep. You might cause it, like stabbing a balloon slowly, hoping it'll let out air gently, but risking it pops all at once. And that's not the only issue. Cost: $3 billion minimum. Technology requires precision beyond what we've mastered. Public trust: one misstep could kill millions. This is not a backyard science project. It's earth surgery on a patient made of fire. Asterisk, early detection, our best bet. If we can't stop it, maybe we can at least get out of the way. Massive international efforts focus on monitoring. Satellites that detect surface uplift. Seismic swarms tracked 24/7 gas sensors to sniff out sulfur, increase Yellowstone, Campi, Flagrey, Topho. They're under constant watch. With enough warning, we might evacuate millions in time. But even then, where would they go? And who decides who gets to go? Preventing a supervolcano disaster requires planet-wide cooperation. Not just data sharing, but shared funding, shared infrastructure, and a shared plan for a global emergency. But when do countries agree on that? Only after disaster strikes. We can invest now or pay the price in lives later. Asterisk, what about natural solutions? Ironically, Earth does cool itself slowly. Each eruption relieves pressure. Each quake shifts the balance. Some scientists believe small eruptions around a caldera may prevent the big one. But that's like saying small heart attacks might prevent a massive one. It's possible, but would you bet the planet on it? Asterisk, so, ... can we prevent it? But we can monitor constantly, prepare globally, research intensely, invest in early response systems, educate. So future generations don't ignore the threat, because the truth is, supervolcanoes don't need our permission to erupt. But we don't need to go extinct either. Asterisk, the Earth is alive. Its breath is wind. Its pulse is magma. And sometimes its heartbeat shakes the world. We can't control that heartbeat. But maybe, just maybe, we can learn to live in rhythm with it. There's a moment in every horror story when the characters realize they've missed the signs, the scratching behind the wall, the lights flickering just a bit too long. The cold draft that wasn't there yesterday, and by the time they understand what's coming, it's already in the house. So, we must ask ourselves, are we living that moment now? Have we been ignoring Earth's warnings? While the sky stays just a little too quiet. Yellowstone's breathing has changed since 2004. Yellowstone's ground has been rising and falling like the chest of a sleeping giant at times. The uplift was over 7 centimeters per year, more than double the usual pace. In some places, the ground rose more than 10 inches in a single decade. Then suddenly, it sank. These movements don't mean an eruption is imminent, but they do mean pressure is shifting. And when pressure shifts deep underground, the outcome is never benign. It's building. Strange deaths in the park in 2016. A man died after falling into a boiling acidic pool in Yellowstone. His body dissolved completely in less than 24 hours. The park didn't even recover his remains, just a tragic accident. Maybe, but look at the details. Temperatures over 200 degrees Fahrenheit at the surface. Sulfuric acid levels increasing, new thermal areas appearing spontaneously. The supervolcano isn't asleep. It's talking to us through steam, heat, and death. Are we listening? Signs around the world. Yellowstone isn't alone. Campi Flegrei in Italy is swelling, releasing sulfur gases at levels not seen in 500 years. Lake Toba in Indonesia trembled. With 800 quakes in a single month, Taupo in New Zealand had 700 earthquakes in just 14 days. Recently, each of these sites caused planet-wide disasters in prehistoric times. Each is active again, and together they paint a chilling picture. The Earth may be reaching another boiling point, and this time we're here to witness it. Why hasn't anyone sounded the alarm? Because if they did, what would we even do? There's no city evacuation plan for 50 million people. No government willing to cause global panic. No infrastructure that can absorb climate shock, food collapse, and total migration. So instead, they watch quietly. They issue reports. They adjust risk levels from low to moderate. And we scroll past it, distracted, comfortable, unaware that one sunrise might be our last. Climate shifts already underway. Here's what satellite data shows. Tiny dips in upper atmosphere temperature above calderas, ash traces found in glaciers. Likely from minor hydrothermal blasts. A slow shift in wind and precipitation patterns around supervolcanic zones. Is it coincidence? Or are we watching a slow eruption in reverse? A planet exhaling a quiet death long before the noise ever begins. Asterisk, the final question. We've built our civilizations on fault lines above magma, next to ticking giants. We thought we had time. We thought we could control Earth. But this isn't a nuclear missile launch. There is no red button to press, no off switch, no countdown timer. So here's the question that should haunt us. What if it's already started? What if the first domino fell a decade ago? And what if the sky turns black, not tomorrow, but today, ... and we just haven't looked up yet? Asterisk, we were warned. Not by prophets, not by movies, not by dreams, but by the earth itself. And when the sky finally falls, will we even recognize the sound? Asterisk, there's something I haven't told you. Not yet. Not until now. Because the truth isn't about ancient eruptions or pressure systems deep underground or ash clouds circling the globe. The truth is this: you, yes, you are inside the blast zone, and you always have been. Asterisk. The invisible line, the U.S. Geological Survey mapped it years ago. They called it the Yellowstone Immediate Hazard Zone, a circle roughly 500 miles wide, centered on the caldera. But here's what they didn't put on the maps. Ashfall won't obey borders. Acid rain won't respect cities. Food collapse doesn't need an invitation. If you live in Colorado, Utah, Nebraska, the Dakotas, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, you're already inside it. Your home, your school, your favorite grocery store. All of it could vanish in less than 30 minutes. Asterisk, the final timeline. If it happens tomorrow, minute zero, a deafening roar, unlike anything you've heard. The ground moves as if it's trying to throw you off. Minute 2, communication lines fail. Satellites struggle to see through the superheated ash plume. Minute 5, everything goes dark in your city. No cell service, no lights. No warning. Minute 10, ash begins to fall, fine, gray, and hot. You breathe it in without knowing. It scratches your lungs like glass. Minute 30, your car won't start. The roads are choked. You can't drive away. You can't run fast enough. Asterisk, why you're still here, because like most of us, you believed someone would tell you when to worry, that someone would sound the alarm, that you'd have a warning, time to pack, time to flee. But there is no alarm for Yellowstone. There is no early alert system for the planet deciding it's had enough. There's just this, a subtle tremor, a faint hiss, a puff of steam you barely notice. And then nothing ever again. Asterisk, how to prepare if you even can. There are only two kinds of people who survive. Those already hundreds of miles away. Those underground with sealed food and earth. That's not fearmongering. That's FEMA's own assessment. They estimate 87,000 immediate deaths in the first hour alone, and millions more in the following months due to famine, power loss, and air contamination. If you don't have 6 months of food, an independent power source, and air filters that block toxic particles, you're not ready. Asterisk. But why does this feel like fiction? Because we've been conditioned to treat disasters like stories, neatly wrapped, fixed by heroes, resolved in under 2 hours. But Yellowstone isn't a villain. There is no evil plan. It's just Earth doing what Earth has done before. Many times, long before us, and long after. Asterisk, a message from the ash if Yellowstone erupts. Tomorrow, there won't be any more stories. No trending hashtags, no viral videos, no morning after analysis. There will only be this silence. Silence across your phone. Silence across your city. Silence across the world. The ash will fall. And it won't stop for weeks. It will bury your town, then your country, then your past. Asterisk, you weren't supposed to hear this. You were supposed to keep scrolling. To tell yourself it won't happen, that it can't. But now you know. And when the sky turns black, ... when the signal dies, when you feel the heat before the sound, just remember, this isn't the end of the world. It's just the end of our place in it.